All right, we got a big group here. Hello, hello, hello. And guys, Gina did tell me today that we have people from uh, her community in the US, in the UK, in South Africa. So thank you so much, guys, for getting up or staying up. Um, and I see one of the members from our online community here with us. So it's nice to see a few familiar faces as well. Um, Guys, for people who don't know me, my name is Glen Mackintosh. I'm a psychologist who is super passionate about eating, physical activity, weight, body image, and generally just what I say is helping people kill it at life. Um, and I'm really happy to be here with my good friend and my close colleague, Dr. Gina Cleo, for what I know is going to be a really wonderful webinar. And guys, thank you so much for joining us. Um, Gina and I have been enjoying over the past month or so, kind of sharing some of the magic that's in our online community, on our online program, with the broader community, kind of giving you a bit of a look of what's underneath the hood. And there's nothing in our online program like the live webinars. So this is really the pinnacle, sharing a live webinar with you, where we can interact, where we can problem solve, and you can experience some of the magic that we share with our TSC members. So we're really excited about it. And we kind of want to run it a bit like we run the webinars in the online program. So the way that they typically work is you keep your sound muted so we don't hear anyone's like dogs or babies or TVs in the background. But we do really encourage you to open up your chat box, which I'm going to do now. And please say hello to us. Tell us where you're from. We definitely, as you will learn, Gina and I can talk a lot. We're big talkers, so we definitely want to interact and we want to get in there with you. G'day, Chris from Mildura. Good. I'm from Victoria, and is it good mandarins come from good citrus fruits come from Mildura? Um, oh yeah, we've got people from Sydney, Brisbane, New Zealand,
I can see
Hobart.
Matt here, who's from America. Amazing. Lisa from
Nice one.
Hobart.
Thank you for saying hello, guys, and we'll be checking that chat box because that's probably the main way that we interact. And look, it is totally up to you if you'd rather sort of be a bit of a fly on the wall, but our whole community is a judgment-free zone. So we love to see your faces, and I see a couple of screens popping up now. So if you're feeling brave, we do not care what you look like. We don't care what your background is. We don't care what clothes you're wearing. It's a completely judgment-free zone. So if you prefer to stay a fly on the wall, that's absolutely fantastic. But if you're feeling brave, let's see your faces. And thank you. I can see a few brave souls there. So let me introduce someone who probably doesn't need a lot of an introduction, the wonderful Dr. Gina Cleo. So Emma Sparrenberg, our online programs manager, is here with us. Say hey, Em, and she will share a little link to a bio of Dr. Cleo in case anyone wants to have a further sticky beak. But Gina is a world-leading habits guru. She's a dietitian by trade, and through her experience as a dietitian, wanted to learn more about how to help people change long term. She didn't decide to read a book or do a workshop. She did an entire PhD on habits. And Gina's groundbreaking research is the reason why we met. And it has taken her speaking at academic conferences all over the globe. Her research has been cited hundreds of times in academic journals, And as of this year, she is also a best-selling author. As I said, Gina and I met in 2016, it was, at an academic conference. And since then, we have enjoyed the most beautiful working relationship and friendship. We've done many fun and exciting projects together. And the most significant, the most important, and the most special of those projects is that Gina has found a home in our online community, which we call the Transformation Support Community. We are very, very privileged to have Gina. She's absolutely part of the family now. This will be the third live webinar series she's delivered, which makes her the most prolific guest in our community. And we do feel very, very privileged that, you know, a lot of people all over the world benefit from Gina's profound knowledge on habits. But the TSC, as we lovingly call it, is the only place where you can access Gina's support directly. So we feel very privileged and very blessed and very lucky to have Gina supporting our people. And today we want to share some of that magic with you guys. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Cleo, who's going to be talking to us today about something that I think is probably relevant to all of us in a way, or probably lots of ways, is building our willpower muscles.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Glenn, for that beautiful introduction. And I just want to say again, a special thank you to the people who woke up at 4 something a.m. to be here for the 5 a.m. start. I'm speaking to you, my American friends, and I know there's people from London, South Africa, New Zealand, all over the world. So thank you so much for being here. It's a real honor. So like Glenn mentioned, I'm going to be speaking about building your willpower muscle. We can use the word willpower interchangeably with other words like discipline and self-control. So take it in whatever way resonates with you. And interestingly, I started my career as a dietitian, as Glenn mentioned, but I really struggled with my own habits. I struggled with my own willpower. I constantly felt like a failure because I'd plan all these grand things, like tomorrow I'm going to get up and exercise. And I would end up scrolling on Facebook Marketplace for 2 hours instead. And I'm like looking up exercise equipment, but I'm not actually moving my body. Or I would intend to eat well, and it wouldn't happen. It would go out the window. And that's really what started my fascination with understanding why we do the things we do. What are the things that motivate us as human beings to move forward, and how can we harness that in a way that's going to be conducive to our life and to our goals? So I want to talk to you about building your willpower muscle, because I thought willpower, I was really hoping actually that one day willpower will come into this, I don't know, easy to digest pill, and it would just be something I can just pop and get going. But it's actually, willpower is a resource that we can tap into at any time. And it's also like a muscle, and it can be strengthened, which is really quite empowering thought. So I want to start with a quote, and perhaps you can hold on to this quote as we go through tonight's webinar. And the quote is, "The future depends on what you do today." So just hold on to that as I go through this webinar. So I'm going to share some slides for you. So let's start with willpower, and what is it? What does it actually mean, so that we're all on the same page? So I mentioned that it's sometimes called self-control or self-discipline, and it's what helps us to resist short-term temptations so that we can reach our long-term goals. It's that inner strength that keeps us focused and motivated and on track, even when life throws distractions and obstacles and setbacks our way, which inevitably it always does. But here's the catch, willpower isn't an unlimited resource. So just like a muscle, it can get tired if we use it too much. This is a phenomenon psychologists call ego depletion. And if you've read my book or done the previous habit series that I've done, you will know a little bit about ego depletion. But that's why after a long day of making decisions, we're more likely to give in to temptations in the evening. Our self-control muscle simply gets worn out. And you'll probably notice this in your life. And, there's an experiment that was done just recently where they had this really loud blowhorn going, and they asked one group of participants to do this mathematical equation as the blowhorn was going. And it was just so irritating and this really obnoxious sound. And they timed how long it would take them to do the mathematical equation. And then they stopped the horn. They gave them a similar but different equation, and they asked them to do that one without the distraction. And it took them half the time to complete this equation without this blowhorn happening. And that's really a demonstration of, if you think of the blowhorn as life, and it's things like screaming children, it's traffic, it's having to make plenty of decisions, it's feeling stress, it's uncomfortable conversations. All these things deplete our capacity to be able to do things in the way that we would like to do them. But there's a beautiful way that we can, I guess, bypass or divert ourselves from these limitations. But if you think of willpower again, when we're faced with tough decisions, like squeezing in that early morning workout or sticking with a new healthy eating plan, some of us feel overwhelmed and we give up, or we might not even try. But others will dig deep, they'll harness their energy and they'll push through even when there's no immediate payoff. Do you ever find yourself putting off things like doing the dishes before bed or folding the laundry? Guilty on folding the laundry. I have baskets, literally baskets of clean laundry. I had to buy a new basket because they were all taken. Or maybe you see other people exercising regularly and you think, how do they manage to do it? Like, could I ever be that disciplined? And it might seem like some people are just naturally more motivated. But the good news is research shows that the areas of the brain that are responsible for overcoming challenges can actually grow and they get stronger with practice. Neuroscience tells us that willpower, or the ability to stay resilient and push through, is like a muscle. And the more we step out of our comfort zone, the more this willpower muscle strengthens. So whether it's getting up to move your body, resisting that second helping of dessert, or simply not procrastinating, these small acts of discipline build up your brain's willpower circuits. Now, what's fascinating is that people who consistently persevere in the face of challenges tend to enjoy better health, greater academic achievement, and more success in their career. So we see that grit, tenacity, perseverance, willpower, all these qualities are driven by specific regions in the brain, which I am about to dive into. And the great, I guess, understanding this is really beneficial because I'm a big believer that if you can really understand something, then you can know how to change it and how to, I guess, overcome it. This is Glenn's favorite part, is all the geeky brainy stuff. So there's a part in your brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC. It's this blue part here that's highlighted on the screen. That's super important when it comes to self-control. This little region that's tucked in your prefrontal cortex helps with all sorts of things like making decisions, paying attention, or managing your emotions. Now, what's really cool is that the research shows that the AMCC lights up like a Christmas tree when we're using self-control. So whether you're dragging yourself to exercise when you'd rather not, or saying no to that second helping of dessert, this part of your brain is working pretty hard. And it actually goes stronger and bigger because of it. So if we think of self-control like a muscle, the AMCC is the part of your brain that's doing the heavy lifting. It's in the short term, using self-control can feel exhausting, but over time, just like with a muscle, it gets stronger and easier to flex that self-discipline and willpower. Now, the best part is this brain region, it keeps learning and changing throughout your life. So you have the power to train it however you want to. Now, as with every part of the brain, the AMCC communicates with other brain regions. And here are some fun facts. So let's start with the motor cortex. This is the part of your brain that helps control movement. And when the AMCC talks to the motor cortex, it gives us that boost to take more initiative, to feel more motivated, and to get up and engage in activities. Last time I was explaining the motor cortex and I said it helps you control movement. And I did these ones. I was like, like how I'm moving my arms, it's like the motor cortex. And Glenn thought I looked like those bobbly air things that's like that are outside like car sales places. Those bobbly things. So that's the motor cortex. It's what controls your movement. So think about it. Movement plus motivation and willpower together create action. They create even further motivation and engagement and activity. So it's a really powerful combination. The other one is the ventral striatum. Now, this part of the brain loves immediate rewards. It's the reason why, let's say I offer you $20 right now. I'm like, here you go, you've got $20. Or if you waited a week, then I'm going to give you $100. Your ventral striatum in this moment would light up and push you to take the $20 right now. It's going to be fighting all the other parts of your brain and going, take the 20, take the 20. This is great. We can have it right now. Because it's all about instant gratification. But when the AMCC teams up with the ventral striatum, we find more grit and determination. So in this case, you'd be likely to pass on the $20 and wait a week for that $100. And this combo really helps us to focus on long-term benefits rather than giving into short-term temptations, like getting up to exercise when we don't feel like it, or sticking to healthy habits, like having a regular bedtime routine, for example. Again, a really powerful combo. The AMCC, as a summary, is associated with willingness to exert more effort, persistence and perseverance, and predicting grit. So now that we have a better understanding of the science behind willpower, I'd love to explore some really practical strategies for building and strengthening this AMCC in your brain, or our self-control muscle. I'm going to give you 5 strategies. 5 strategies, they're all evidence-based. And Glenn and I went through, because normally I go through 10. So in the actual webinar that's in the program, I go through 10 of these evidence-based strategies, but we went through and picked our favorite 5. And we also wanted to deliver things that weren't that predictable or obvious, like things you'd be like, what, really? But have really solid science behind them. And the first one, and my favorite, Glenn's favorite too, is practicing gratitude. Having an attitude of gratitude can increase feelings of happiness and satisfaction and contentment. We know this. And it makes it easier to maintain self-control and resist temptation. Now, why? What is the link? If we're feeling satisfied, there's a surge of serotonin, which is our happy hormone, that's going through our brain and our body. When we've got serotonin, we're much less likely to crave dopamine hits, things like sugar and screen time and things that give us that thrill-seeking feeling. So you want to take the time each day to reflect on things that you're grateful for, whether it's your health, your relationships, your accomplishments. And what's really cool about gratitude is that if you create a habit of feeling gratitude, no matter what time of day you do it, there are different benefits. And so it's actually really cool to maybe try it at different times of the day. For example, I like to think of one thing that went well in the day, or one thing I'm grateful for just before I go to bed. Just like as soon as my head hits my pillow, that's when I think about it. And research shows that we get a better night's sleep when we do that. Because again, serotonin gives us also that feeling of contentment. And contentment's a beautiful thing to experience just before you're going to sleep. It's reducing stress and anxiety, and it's increasing those feelings of satisfaction. We know also if you think of like being grateful for a meal, which is something that I have been practicing as a ritual, I guess, in my family my whole life, just like saying grace or saying thanks for the meal, that helps you to digest better. It helps you to feel more mindful during your meal. So, I mean, there is 0 negatives to gratitude and so many positives. And the coolest one is this increase in serotonin, which helps us to crave things less. Therefore, increasing our sense of willpower, our self-control. The next one is practicing mindfulness. So activities that increase awareness and control over our thoughts and emotions, like mindfulness and meditation, can enhance the function of the AMCC and significantly boost willpower in a few ways. The first way is that mindfulness helps you to become more aware of your thoughts and emotions and impulses in the moment. So when you're more aware, you can catch yourself before reacting automatically to temptations or to stress. This pause creates space for you to make a conscious choice instead of falling into old habits or giving into those immediate desires. The second way is that mindfulness trains your brain to focus better. Mindfulness actually increases the activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is where the AMCC sits. And so when we're increasing activity in a certain brain part, it increases blood flow to that part and electrodes to that part. And so you get more activity. And the more activity in a certain brain part, it makes it more efficient. Efficiency is a beautiful thing for the brain because the more efficient a certain brain part is, the more likely it's going to be the default response, the quickest response that we do. And so it's a really good thing to have more of that prefrontal cortex. Now, the third way mindfulness helps reduce the third way mindfulness helps is that it reduces stress and emotional reactivity. When we're less stressed and we're more emotionally balanced, your brain isn't as overwhelmed, which means you have more mental resources available to exert self-control. Remember, if self-control is like a muscle and you're using some of that muscle to self-regulate through things like stress and emotional reactivity, then you've got less of that to exert into other things. But when you're reducing your stress, then you can definitely have more resources for your willpower muscle. So in essence, mindfulness gives you the tools to manage your impulses, to stay focused, to navigate challenges with greater ease, all of which contribute to stronger willpower. So I want to encourage you to take a few minutes each day to practice mindfulness meditation, focusing on your breath, bringing your attention back to the present moment whenever it wanders. Now, that doesn't have to be, sitting in a corner for half an hour or an hour, singing your alms. It doesn't have to be that. For me, mindfulness in my life looks like when I have a shower in the morning, I'm really present. I'm noticing what the water feels like on my body. I'm noticing what the temperature's like, the smell of the soap. And I'm really consciously trying not to think about what am I going to wear, those emails I need to reply to, what's for breakfast. I am here in this moment, and the 2 minutes that I'm having a shower. And it's a really beautiful experience. And then I also try to do the same when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm strength training, when I'm doing my archery, which is one of my hobbies. It can really be anything that you can just be present in. That's a great moment to practice mindfulness. The third way, which I've touched on, that you can boost your willpower muscle is managing stress. Reducing stress has a significant impact on willpower because stress is one of the biggest drains on our mental and physical resources. As a habit researcher, I always say to people, if you're experiencing a significant period of stress in your life, when you're having chronic stress, I wouldn't even try to create new habits in that time because the learning centers of your brain are shut down when you're experiencing a high amount of stress. The first step is reduce stress. And the second step is try to then implement new habits into your life. When you're stressed, your body's in a state of high alert, which uses up so much brain resources, and it can leave you feeling exhausted. And this exhaustion makes it harder to resist temptation or to stick to your goals because your willpower gets depleted much quicker. Stress also triggers the release of cortisol, which is the hormone. It's a stress hormone, and it increases cravings for comfort food, which are often high in fat and sugar. It also increases cravings for dopamine. And we all get that from things like scrolling through our phone, watching that extra episode of Netflix at night, not going to bed on time, things like caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, all of those things. We crave so much more. And we're, I guess, weaker to the pull of them when there's cortisol running through our body. Now, with foods that are high in sugar and fat. Actually, no, I'm going to save that one for the next slide. Let's keep talking about stress. By reducing stress, you free up more mental and physical energy to focus on what really matters. You're able to make more thoughtful decisions. You're able to resist short-term temptations and to really stay on track with your goals. In other words, less stress means more willpower to make the choice that supports your long-term well-being. So again, some stress management techniques can be things like deep breathing, which I find for me is more effective than sitting and quietly meditating. I think because it's dynamic, it's something I have to think about, so it works. There's also progressive muscle relaxation or spending time in nature. If you've never practiced progressive muscle relaxation, it's something that I would normally go through in the webinar, but you can practice it even just with one part of your body. Essentially what it is when you regularly you tense one of your muscles. So let's like, everybody can do it right now. So tense your bicep. Go on, Glen, show us your bicep. We know you love doing that. Yes, that's exactly it. You tense your bicep and you might do it for just like 10 seconds actively. And then you release that tension. And you notice in that moment how the release of it relaxes you. It's kind of like when you sit in a warm bath and you get that feeling. That's what that feels like. And it's actually actively becoming very aware of your body. And that helps to reduce tension in your body. I often find that I do this with my jaw because that's where I hold tension is in my jaw. And when I become aware of it and I just release it, it's like I've just had a full head massage. It's what it feels like. It's just really, really soothing. So I like this one because it's something you can do anywhere. Like if you're someone who commutes, for example, and you're on a train or a bus, you can literally be practicing progressive muscle relaxation and no one would know. It's not like you're sitting there doing breath work on a train or something. So it's a really cool exercise that, that I will teach you more about. The next one, I love this one, eating regular meals. This is your permission to eat regularly. Do you know that there are biological factors like blood sugar levels can really have a huge impact on your willpower? Also, getting enough sleep. So getting enough sleep and eating well are key because they both help to keep your blood sugar levels nice and steady, which is really important for staying in control. And it's a good reminder here that willpower isn't just about mental strength. It's tied to our physical health as well. And the reason why we want to keep our blood sugar levels is nice and even is this why. I'll show you. So this chart here shows high GI foods and low GI foods. So GI is glycemic index. It's essentially how much your blood sugar spikes and falls based on the foods that you eat. When we eat things that are high GI, things like white bread, jasmine rice, processed baked goods, chips, cakes, etc., we are throwing our blood sugar levels out of balance. So this red line, we see our blood sugar levels spikes all the way up and then it crashes down below baseline. So then you feel more lethargic, more tired. You have like a crash afterwards. And so it actually leaves you more drained, low on energy, both physically and mentally. And we know that when we are depleted in that area, that's what ego depletion is. And it's really hard to be able to exert mental resources when we're in that space. So instead, we want to try to aim for low glycemic index foods, things like basmati rice, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, oats. These really help to keep your energy nice and stable. So have a think about maybe what you can do to make sure firstly that you're not skipping meals or you're not letting yourself get too hungry, and maybe a couple of food swaps that you might be able to think about in your day. Now, a lot of people ask me why sushi's here. It's tragic, isn't it? I'll tell you why. Sushi rice is white rice, but also they cook sushi rice with sugar. I'm not saying not to eat sushi. Eat your sushi, team. But just know that you might have a little energy dip afterwards. It might not keep you full for as long as if you chose like the brown rice sushi, which is what I like to go for. Or some places are extra fancy and they have like the red rice sushi. Either one is going to be much better for you than just the normal sushi. Let's never hate on sushi. Last but not least, practice self-discipline. I know this one seems really obvious, but imagine it like this. When you challenge yourself to resist temptation in your daily life, whether that's cutting back on screen time, not giving into negative thoughts like, I'm never going to achieve this, or saying no to processed foods that don't make you feel good, you're strengthening that discipline muscle. Or maybe it's about practicing delayed gratification, telling yourself, I can have that, but I'm going to wait 10 minutes. It's like doing an extra rep at the gym when you're doing that. It's giving your willpower muscle just that extra oomph. Each little act of discipline adds up, and it's making your self-control muscle stronger over time. By regularly pushing yourself in these small ways, you're actually helping your brain develop better cognitive control. And this means not only more willpower and self-discipline, but also better emotional regulation. So next time you really feel like giving up, say this mantra to yourself. Say, I'm not done yet. And each small victory is making you stronger. One of the ways that I practice self-discipline is when I hear, often my phone is on silent, but if I hear it ding or vibrate, I very intentionally don't look down to see what the message is or whatever is going on if I'm focusing on something. And just that delay, I'm just like, yeah, I can check it in a minute. Because naturally, when the phone dings, you go and grab it and you take a look at what it is because your brain's like, oh, there's dopamine over there. We definitely need to see what's going on with that. But if you just delay it, you will be amazed at the level of emotional regulation that you can have in other areas. I really noticed it in ways like how I don't react as much to when my partner says something that's really triggering or annoying, or I don't it's just the little things that you'll start to notice in your life, and it's a really powerful and a beautiful experience to have. So I really do encourage you to try to just practice self-discipline in really small ways, teeny tiny ways. Even if you're delaying something by 30 seconds, it's still better than nothing. So I want to take this moment to then encourage you to think about what's your weapon of choice. I've given you 5 ways that you can boost your willpower muscle, but I want to encourage you to just pick one that you can start with and practice from today. Well, if you're in the evening, from tomorrow. Although if it's gratitude, you can start today. And then once you've sort of got more in the hang of that, then pick another one, add another one in your life, and then another one. We don't want to overwhelm our brains with doing too many things. These are just tools for you to be able to harness the power of this. So I hope that was helpful. I know there was lots of chat. Glen, I hope you're onto that because you know what I'm like with task shifting. Great. Now I'd love to take this moment. So this webinar that we've shared tonight is a taste test. It's like a little taster, it's an appetizer of one of the webinars that we'll be doing in the Creating Your Healthiest Habits series, which Glen mentioned earlier. Is basically, it's a series that starts in 2 weeks' time. It runs for 12 weeks. And each week you get a full webinar from me where there's a bit more interaction. We actually practice these things within the context of the webinar rather than me just like going through them like this. So I'd love to share with you what the topics will be and see if it's something that might interest you, because we would absolutely love to have you there. So there's 4 parts. Firstly, it starts on the 16th of September. Now, Glen has very, very generously, which I'll let him say, but I've already started the sentence, so now I have to continue it, offered a free 2-week trial or a 2-week membership. But yes, I'll let Glen finish the rest of that part. Yeah, thanks, Glen. It just came out. I was so excited about it. Okay, so Emma's laughing because she knows that I'm just going to say whatever's on my mind. Okay, so the series starts with the foundations of habits and a bit of an introduction. I go through what are habits, how are they different from behaviors, why do we even have habits, and why do we do the things we do? And then we go through a making and breaking habits masterclass. You guys will be absolute masters at these things. by the end of the introduction. Now, there's 4 parts to this. The first part is a mindset for habit transformation. Why does change feel so hard? And what do we do about it? Our brain is designed to preserve energy, and often what's perceived as laziness is actually exhaustion. So we go through differentiating that and how we can maintain our energy levels. Then we go through building your willpower muscle, which you guys just had a little bit of tonight. That's going to be session 4. Now, in part 2, this part's all about habits for elevating your mood and your mind state. You know, as we approach the end of the year, things get more stressful. Things get a little bit more chaotic. And I want to really be able to help you to be in as much control and self-compassion as you can during this time. So we're going to go through habits for energizing, what to do when you need a bit more oomph in your day, habits for de-stressing, because there's going to be that inevitably in life. Now, session 7, this one I'm excited about. This is about breath work and the brain. And my very good friend, Hini Banks, is going to be coming online and doing a breathwork session with us. She's an incredible global breathwork coach. And we're going to go through the different types of breathwork and how they impact our brain, our body, both on a physiological and psychological level. Session 8 is about mindfulness, the benefits of mindfulness, and how to easily make it a regular part of our everyday life. Now, part 3 is a deep dive into dopamine. I received a really cool message today, actually, from somebody who signed up recently to do the free membership. And I sent part of the message to Glen. And what it said is, Dear Dr. Cleo, I've just signed up and I'm waiting for your new 12-week course to start. I was watching your Healthy Habits lectures. It's fascinating. I'm so glad I signed up. The bit about dopamine and addictions and how to reset it is great. Actually, it's mind-blowing. I think it explains a lot about why people keep wanting to eat food out. This was very enlightening. I find dopamine one of those things that I'm like, why don't they teach us this at school? Once we understand dopamine, it's like everything falls into place. It's like, this is why I feel drawn to doing this. This is why, you know, I find creating a phone scrolling habit so much easier than a kale eating habit. It's like we really get to understand the brain so much more. So we go through what is dopamine and the power of rewards, peaks and troughs, what it feels like, all of those good things. And then we do the second dopamine deep dive, which is about dopamine hacking. Is it even a thing? How do we balance our dopamine naturally? And what are things that we can do every day to make sure that we have really healthy dopamine levels so that we're not craving things? And finally, part 4 is creating forever habits. Keeping healthy habits when life happens, because Lordy, we know that life happens, like how to deal with holidays, busy periods, visiting relatives, life's ups and downs, all of those things. And then if all fails, if everything goes out the window, how do we get back into routine and reclaim our rhythm again? And I think this will be really cool to have that knowledge going into, say, holidays or like school holidays or even just that break period. And do so obviously with self-compassion, self-efficacy, and all that stuff. Ta-da! We also have 2 bonus sessions for you, which is my must-have habits. If you were to have a period of your life, say, where it's quite busy and you just want to maintain a really great sense of health and wellness, what are some of the things that you can do to just keep you on that level? So the minimum standard habits. And finally, 5 habits to boost your serotonin. Well, that's all from me. Thank you. And we've got time for questions. So GMAC, did you want to jump on? Let me know if there are any questions that I've missed. Obviously, I've missed all of them in the chat because I haven't been watching, but I know you've done a wonderful job at the chat.
I will just stop chatting away with people. And at the moment, I don't necessarily see any questions. I haven't gotten right to the bottom. There's just actually been a lot of good sharing and interacting. I've sort of asked people to, share as related to your slides. And so there's just been a lot of beautiful interaction, which has sort of brought things to life. So thank you, everyone, for your sharing. And I did say, Gina, like maybe 5 minutes ago or so, I said, look, now we do have time to, through the chat box, do a bit of workshopping, a bit of question asking, a bit of problem solving. This is part of the magic that we do in the online program. So now's the time for it if anyone is feeling brave. And what we often do is we will just refer to you in the chat box by your first name. So, we won't use your whole name. So if anybody does have anything, then please bring it our way.
I wanna actually talk really briefly about Caroline's message, which said, I want to be more routine based so things don't seem so overwhelming all the time. Caroline, you have just summarized the beauty and the power of habits. When we have habits, we don't need to use our prefrontal cortex because our habits are activated in a part of our brain called the basal ganglia. It's the automatic part of our brain. It's like when you sit in the car and the first thing you do is put your seatbelt on. You don't have to think about doing that. You don't have to exert much energy to do that. It's just something that happens. And the power of habits is their ability to free us from having to use self-control and energy and automate our life. So you're in the right place, my friend. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing that comment. Oh, thanks, Brooke. Belinda, do you have any questions or anything that anything that struck you maybe in the webinar or from our conversations?
Look, I really, really love the neuroscience, and one of the secret benefits of doing all this beautiful work with Gina is I'm a practicing psychologist. I still consult 2.5 days a week. I'm the clinical director at my clinic, so I'm very much on the tools. And one of the beautiful things is that my clients get to benefit from this. And I think that when we talk about that neuroscience, just understanding, this is something that psychologists are talking about all the time, that you can get better at your willpower. And the more you make these decisions, the easier they get to make. But I think having some actual neuroscience and understanding, okay, there's something physiologically that's going on in my brain. There's a part of my brain called the AMCC that when I exert willpower, when I practice delayed gratification, when I do something that's challenging, that gets bigger and stronger. And not only that, then it talks to my motor cortex. So it starts to bridge that gap between what I want to do, like what I actually do, that gap between intention and action. And not only that, it also talks to my ventral striatum. So it helps me to overcome those impulses that get me to do all the things that I don't want to do. And so we're actually sort of re-engineering, and we talk about it in the course as rewiring your brain. And that's why it might be a little bit boring, but my favorite technique of those 5 is actually just the practicing self-discipline. So because knowing that when we practice it, we get better at it, and each time it gets a little easier.
I love that. We've got a few questions. So Tania said, as an ADHD, I like to do a lot of exercise, but I also tend to reward myself for this through a sneaky treat. This happens more often than not. How can I break this habit? This is a really common thing, and it's interesting because I actually think it's something we're almost taught in society to like reward ourselves for doing something good, like exercise. And especially with ADHDers, but really with anybody, what we need to do when we've done something that we told ourselves we would do is not reward ourselves later, but reward ourselves straight away. And so you have done the first step of breaking a habit, Tania, which is to identify your trigger and what the habit is that you'd like to break. So your trigger is actually when you exercise. and your habit is you have a sneaky treat, as you like to call it. And whenever we're breaking a habit, instead of saying, I'm not going to do this anymore, we actually need to go, where am I when I'm doing this? What am I doing? How am I feeling? Who am I around? And identify the trigger, because all our habits are triggered by something. So your trigger is exercising and then giving yourself a treat. So what you want to do in that space is think of another treat that you can give yourself that's still going to make you feel rewarded. I love doing something like, it's not going to be as good as chocolate. I'm just going to admit that now. But when I do a workout, especially one that I didn't want to do, I will sit in my car at the gym and be like, girl, well done for going. So proud of you. And actually that emotional reward gives your body and your brain a dopamine hit that's going to be physiologically better than sugar. And you're going to remember that feeling. You're going to remember it more than the sugar or the chocolate. And I've just assumed your treat's chocolate. I'm sorry, it might not be. So give yourself a different reward. You know when it's happening. And so I would also try to eliminate having those sneaky treats available and easily accessible. If you don't have them there, then they're much harder to grab. And we talk about that in the Making and Breaking Habits Masterclass. We break down exactly how to create new habits and how to break old ones with all these like fancy little like graphs and things to help you along the way. Now, Caroline said, awesome, Gina, today felt overwhelming, whereas other days have felt more motivating. Can it be tiring when we're forming new habits? Do we need to rest and give ourselves grace at times? We always need to give ourselves grace. So yes, absolutely. And yeah, you know, any kind of change, whatever the changes in our life, takes mental exertion, and that is going to feel effortful. Even if the change is small, even if it feels somewhat insignificant, you've still had to change the way we do things. One of our brain's primary objectives is to preserve energy. We're making on average 35,000 decisions every single day. And so our brain wants to just automate things, to do what we've always done, because it doesn't take any effort to do that. The moment we introduce a change, our brain's like, whoa, well, this is going to take energy now. And so it can feel more exhausting. One of the ways that we can try to mitigate that is just to make small changes. So make them really teeny tiny, maybe make them every second day or every third day rather than every day, until they start to feel more organic and more natural. And then you can build it up from there. But grace and you know, having that self-compassion is always a winner in my book. So thank you for that question. Matt, hello, Matt has said, is there any easy method to reset our dopamine system in the sense of not craving the immediate gratification of things? Is it an easy method or just a method? There are lots of ways where you can, I guess, reset your dopamine. And we've got a whole webinar on that in the series because it's such an important topic. But there are lots of things that you can do to help reset your dopamine. Firstly, there's two parts to it. There's regulating dopamine so that you have a healthier system. Think of dopamine, actually, the way I'm going to explain it is dopamine is like, actually, dopamine is something that's like insatiable. The more dopamine you consume, the more dopamine you need. And you see this playing out in things like addictions. Someone will just have a little bit of something and then they need more and more and more and more of it just to feel normal again. If you think of the very first time you scrolled on social media, it might have only been 5 minutes, and then that's not enough. And then you need a longer period of time and a longer period of time. And now we're on average scrolling for 3 hours a day on social media. So dopamine feels like, unless you get, there's like, we build a tolerance to it and we constantly need more. So one of the ways is to try to reduce the dopaminergic behaviors that we're doing. So those are the really typical things. I would say phone scrolling is probably the biggest one. It might be too much caffeine, nicotine, like those kinds of things. So reducing it and then balancing. your dopamine levels. So things like getting early morning sunshine, having a cold shower helps to balance your dopamine. And actually last year, we had all our beautiful TSCers having freezing cold showers. We started off with 10 seconds, and some of them have emailed and messaged and said that they're still doing it because it feels so, so good. And we know that increases your dopamine by about 60% naturally, and it can last for hours. So there are lots of awesome hacks that we share in the program, but those are a couple that you can start pretty much straight away if you'd like to. Let me know how you go with those showers.
Gina, I reckon I'm just mindful of the time and mindful that you are university trained. Gina's webinars in the TSC, they start on time, they finish on time. Unlike mine, which start 5 minutes late and end 15 minutes late.
Gives me anxiety.
Is there anything else burning that you want to get to, Cleo?
If I didn't get to your question, please feel free to send through an email to either to Em or to myself, and I will answer those questions because I want to make sure that we get to everyone. But other than that, over to you, Glen.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Cleo, and thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it so far. There are a few questions on if you want to do the series, if you want to join the program, how does it all work? So I've just noted those, and I will share just a little PowerPoint for people who are interested in the community and what we're actually doing. So let me do that with you now. And I'm a bit of a technological nuffy, so I always like to make sure that I ask if everyone can see what we're doing. You got me? Rock and roll. So let me let you know a little bit about the Transformation Support Community, which is the online program that you join to become a part of the series. Because the live webinar series are a really important part of the TSC, as we lovingly call it. But there is so much more in there to help you change. And that's the way that it works. By joining the community, you get access to the live series. So we're obviously talking about Gina's upcoming live webinar series. But one of the key things that I want you to know about the TSC is that there is a treasure trove of webinar series. So we've got Dr. Cleo here on the left. This will be her third habit series in the TSC. We have a tapping series with Dr. Peter Stapleton. One of our senior psychologists has just finished a wonderful series on the deeper work. She's a psychologist, psychotherapist, and yoga teacher. And I have webinars on self-esteem and body image, intuitive eating and joyful movement, emotional eating and psychological well-being. We now have over 15 webinar series and almost 180 live webinars. So we're kind of at that stage where if you have a challenge with something, there's a very good chance we have a webinar series about it. We also have some very cool audio programs. As well as a psychologist, I have been a hypnotherapist for just over 15 years now. And a lot of the audio programs involve a combination of relaxation and hypnotherapy, including the one at the top, the 90-day transformation, which is my hypnotherapy masterpiece. And a lot of our members really like the audio programs because they're a very relaxing, very easy way to transform. And then one thing that it's nice that our programs manager, is with us because we've been running online courses this is our 11th year. And one thing that we know that people need if they want to really change is really close support. So we do a live weekly webinar. 48 weeks of the year, we do a weekly webinar. Now, somebody asked the time of that webinar in this series. So all of the webinars will be done by Gina. They're going to be 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Wednesday. So if you watch live, and it's a bit like this webinar, guys, we've had about 60 people join. We have a group of people who join live, and that's fantastic. And then a lot of people will watch them in their own time. So you can attend live, but if that time doesn't work, you just watch them at a time that's right for you. We upload them very quickly, like that night after the webinar happens, so that it's all there for you. There was a question about slides, and the way that we do share the slides in the TSC is basically we don't share always the slides. Sometimes Gina will share certain ones with you, but we actually give you a series workbook. So it has all of the information, sometimes in a bit more detail, and then the activities that we go through. So our guys really love the workbooks. There's an image of Gina just developing one of the workbooks. We do have a member-only Facebook group. So for the duration of this live series, Gina will be in there supporting you. And I think that's really cool. Sort of like when she said, hey guys, if you missed a question, just email it to me and Em will provide our support email so you can do that. And I think that's part of the magic of it. It's just this really, really close support. If you like live webinars, you can roll up to those. If you're more of a sit in the background person, you can watch in your own time and connect on Facebook. And we have a whole range of options. We know not everyone's going to take them because, different people need support in different ways. We have accountability buddies, one-on-one sessions that you can do with me that just go for 15 minutes, all included in your program if you get a bit stuck or a bit lost. Lots and lots of great options for support. So I will get back to the chat box in a second, and maybe you could put up the link to the series for anyone who wants to join us. This is our upcoming series, and like I said, this is our third series. I think that we've gotten really good at knowing what our members need, and the content that Gina took you through is a combination of things that our members specifically asked for, and some of the newer things that Gina's been working on from her book and other research she's been doing. So we would, of course, love to have you. The way you secure your spot is just to register. We do limit the growth of the community because we want to keep the support intimate. We want to keep the support close. So there's 16 spots remaining at the moment. Gina, I saw your email to everyone this morning and there was 19. So they are getting snapped up, which is awesome. And as Gina said, she's already told you, I don't need to take that, but as Gina said, we do have a 2-week free trial. So someone asked, how does that actually work with the free trial? What do we get? You basically get access to everything. So as someone on the trial membership, you get access to everything, all the previous webinars, including Gina's previous series, all the audio programs, a Facebook group, everything. And it's a good way to kind of then just get familiar with the program. Spend a couple of weeks getting to know the program, get your welcome emails, and then be ready to hit the ground running when we all start on September 16th. We do also have an introductory members discount as well. So if you enter the coupon code there, you get 25% off your membership. And you get that for the extent of your whole time with us, for the life of your membership. So we have certain people that will join just for this series. Sometimes people do one of Gina's series and then realize they want to do another. So you can stick around for a little while. And we have had members who have been with us for years and years and just find that the program just keeps helping them transform. So we would love you to join for as long as you would like. And Em, I'm sure, yep, she's put up the link there. So I think that this has been a really special series, and Gina and I put a lot of work into them. But this one for me, we're always co-creating the series with the members, and this one to me has just seemed really smooth and really easy. It's just like, yeah, this just makes a whole lot of sense. Some really cool, very powerful stuff that we know is going to help you change. So a couple of questions. I think I've answered the first one. Do I have to attend the webinars live? No. Most of our people actually watch them in their own time. Some people have asked, do I have to do Gina's first series or second series in order to do this one? The answer is absolutely not. So we design each series so if you're a total habits newbie, you can just jump straight in because we cover the foundational habits theory. Gina covers the foundational habits theory in the first few webinars. And don't worry, guys. People often ask, okay, well, what if it's not right for me? Or what if I get to the end of this series and then I want to cancel? Is there any kind of minimum time? And there absolutely isn't. We try to make the community so fantastic that you'll want to stay, and we would love you to find a home in the community for your transformation. But you can actually cancel anytime. So there's no contracts or anything like that. So guys, that's, I think, everything from me. I'm conscious of the time and I'm 2 minutes over. Let me just check if there's anything. And Gina, I think you've been busy answering some questions in the chat box, which is really, really cool. And I think we've basically got to most things. But anything that we haven't, we would love to take a really deep dive in this super intensive, super interactive, super supported, and actually really fun kind of series. So thank you so much, Gina, and thank you so much for everyone who has attended live. I think we've all done a great job. And we hope you take one of those tips, or at least one, so you can build your own willpower muscles. And Gina, I was having a laugh because I did one flex once on one Instagram story, and now I'm going to be known as the flexing guy.
You'll never live that one down.
But hopefully you've found some value, and also found that we do like to have a little bit of fun as we change. Change can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be any more challenging. We don't have to make it any more challenging, and we often find in Gina's series we have a lot of fun along the way. So thank you so much, guys, and we will look forward to seeing you and supporting you soon.
Thanks so much, everyone. See you.